And looks like we're live. Looks like we might be live. let's let's hope we're live. StreamYard has been having some issues. Announcement right off the top: if StreamYard has issues, what I will do is drop off of here and record the content and do a recorded video. But StreamYard this morning has been acting a little sus. So hopefully all is going well. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can see me okay. Let me know what is going on. How's the audio? How's the video? How's everything? Harlan Abraham is here. He's got his coffee. At least I'm live. Okay, well, that's good. My name is Frankie. This is the coffee. And this is Coffee with Frankie. And it is Sunday, July 28th, 2024. Harlan is able to see and hear. Okay, let me know about the quality. We had early on, we had some audio quality issues, but I think I've solved those, hopefully. So maybe everything will hold up just fine. It's a little weird when you're getting ready to do a show and then StreamYard crashes. It's like, what is going on? Paul Klein is here. He says all systems go. All right, that's good. Harlan's drinking Maxwell House. Well, Harlan, I think you got to up your game a little bit. A little bit. Maxwell House is like that old-fashioned staple, that you have in the house. And Infrared is here. This hour is more suitable for me as I am not an early bird. Quality is great. Okay, good. Thank you, Infrared. Those who don't know, Infrared has his own channel and his own show. So check out Infrared Jets on his channel. Says the quality is great, so that is good. Okay, so looks like we just had some hiccups with StreamYard, and hopefully it'll hold up for the amount of time that we're here. So it is Sunday, July the 28th. We had our first week of training camp, and all systems go pretty much. Arlen says, hey, Maxwell House is really good. Good to the last drop. Yeah, it's one of those ones that's been around a long time, Arlen. But there's a lot of new ones you may want to check out. Nate is here. Good morning. Good morning, Nate. Happy good morning. Stay caffeinated. We're going to run through what we're going to do is we're going to run through some news items, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. If you guys have any Q's, I'll let you know if I have any A's. May not have any A's. I don't know, but you may have some Q's. We'll do those at the end. But first, what we're going to do is review the news. So let's see what we got, and hopefully this will work. This is the news. This is the news we got. Okay, news item number one. News item number one. Aaron Rodgers shirt and flip-flops. What's this all about? Well, let's review this news item. Here's the news item from when Rodgers reported to camp. Aaron Rodgers trolls haters at Jets camp in perfect shirt. So everybody was talking about this shirt that we got here. That's this one, because he got an Egyptian cat on there. So he's trolling everybody with the shirt. But old Frankie said something else going on in this picture that's actually way more important, the way I see it, and that's the footwear. If you look, he's got these minimal flip-flops on. Why is that important? Because if you remember when he got hurt, he had to wear those weird shoes. Remember that? With the heel, the raised heel and all that. He had to wear those old man shoes, I think he called them. Well, now he's wearing flip-flops. And this tells me one thing. The Achilles is healed completely. Doesn't need any assistance footwear. He's back to his regular, stuff. And I think that's good news. And nobody mentioned that. Everybody was focused on the shirt. Nobody was looking at the minimal flip-flops. And that to me tells me the Achilles is feeling much better and maybe 100% healed. So that was actually the more important thing in this picture, in my opinion. All right, moving on. News item number 2. Reddick ready? Reddick ready? Question mark. What's this all about? Well, we got a report yesterday, I think it was, from Josina Anderson. Josina Anderson. What does she say? She says, I am told Hassan Reddick's talks with the Jets progressed positively this week. And as of earlier today, there's recent hope, which is a weird phrase, that Reddick's presence and acclimation process with the team is approaching, per sources. And then says he's holding out and all this. Now, Josina is a very good source of information. So we should take this very seriously. She is a very good reporter and she has excellent sources. Oftentimes, her sources are the players themselves. So we got some good news here. And subsequent to this, Samini put something out. Rich Samini, the Dick Chimney, he put something out this morning that, per his sources, that basically confirms this, that there's been some progress. So it's been confirmed by 2, official reporters here. So this is good. I wouldn't be surprised if he reports tomorrow. There's an off day. The Jets are off today. The Giants are not. Jets have an off day, and then they come back tomorrow. So it would make sense for him to show up. He's missing $50,000 a day. Imagine just taking $50,000 every day and burning it. I mean, that's what he's doing. It's hard to imagine somebody doing that, but that's what he's doing every single day. So if there's progress, that means the Jets are going to give him something. That's all that could really mean. So whatever they're going to give him, I think they should probably be able to wrap this up by tomorrow, and hopefully he comes in, he stops burning $50,000 a day. No need to do that. Come on in. You're not going to skip the season. We'll give you what we give you. Joe Douglas will give you a fair deal. We know that Joe Douglas is fair. He doesn't go into McCagnon land with giving you tons of money, but he keeps things fair for the most part. And so I'm sure it's a fair offer for Mr. Reddick. And so I'm sure he's going to be in, because there's just no way that he's going to miss training camp and miss the season. Harlan says, if Reddick comes to terms with the Jets, fine. If not, that's also fine. He's going to come to terms, Harlan. I mean, Jets have a really good defense no matter what. That's true, but this man has to play this year. He has to play. What is he going to do? Skip the season like Le'Veon Bell? That didn't work out too good for Le'Veon Bell. And didn't work out too good for us either, but that's a whole other story. But he's not going to miss. I mean, he's at an age where he needs to play and get his next contract. He's going to get a few sweeteners, just like you put a little sweetener in your coffee with Frankie, and he's going to get a few sweeteners. We guarantee the money. We give him a few incentives. He comes on in, makes a little bit extra money, and everything will be forgotten once he comes in. Trust me. All right, next news item. What's next on the docket? Amart. Well, let's see if this thing will work. Let me know how this works. So, we signed Amart. It may have come to a surprise, come as a surprise to some people. Adrian Martinez, he's a quarterback, and he was originally at Nebraska, but I remember watching him at Kansas State, where he transferred to. And I remember him being a really good running quarterback. We signed him to be a camp arm. Now, he also went into the UFL and won the MVP. So we got 2 MVP quarterbacks on our roster right now. A-Rod and then A-Mart. Now, that just goes to show you what a difference between the UFL and NFL is because A-Mart won the MVP of the UFL and won a championship and all this good stuff. And he's a camp arm for us, for a 7-10 team. So let's take a look. Let's see if you guys can hear this. I'm going to try to play this. Let me know if you can hear the video. Let's see if we can run this or not. This will be a little bit of an experiment. I'm trying to I guess it's not going to work. Trying to run this video. This is his highlights. And this will give you a flavor. Like, this is his highlight tape from Kansas State. He's the quarterback here in the shotgun, obviously.
Martinez on the first play of the game.
Audio. But what you're going to notice,
the speed does the rest.
Well, I didn't mark him out.
All right, so we probably can't do that.
I mentioned that 55-yard run last week. That's
plays in here. All right, so I don't think sound is good. Vid is choppy. I don't think I can do too many things at once. I got between StreamYard and this internet connection, and there's too much going on. But anyway, the point of that was to show you that even his highlight tape is mostly him running. So he's a very good running quarterback. I think what happens is it gets overwhelmed. Okay, so we should be back. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Phil Adams is here. The great Phil Adams. See, now StreamYard is giving me problems. See, you're trying to do too much. Trying to do too much. And this is what happened. All right. I think we're going to have to do an upgrade of our equipment here. We're going to need an equipment upgrade. All right. So I'm not going to try to play a video anymore. Hopefully that's what it was. All right. Sorry about that. But between the $400 laptop and StreamYard and God knows what else, I don't know if we can do all the things I want to do. But nonetheless, let's talk about Adrian Martinez then. Fine. All right. So Adrian Martinez, what he can do is run the ball. So he's a running quarterback. That much we know. And for someone who's coming in to be a camp arm, he has some experience. Almost all of his highlights are him running the ball, and he's very good at it. Very good at it. Now let's see if I can take this off of here. Okay. So, yeah, sorry about that. But we got a guy who could at least do something. And for a camp arm, for a guy, who, is just going to be here, maybe he makes a practice squad or something like that. He does have good experience. Look at that. And I'm going to get rid of this one. Yeah. Well, there's a lot more running quarterbacks nowadays. Now I'm getting this weird signal thing. Anyway, so I think, I don't know, maybe I can get rid of this. Maybe that'll help. Delete. Maybe that'll help. Arlen says running quarterbacks can be good. Well, Archie Manning was like the original running quarterback, but of course nowadays we got many of them. We got Lamar. We got, all the quarterbacks really run. Lamar, Josh, Kyler. There's a lot that put up yardage these days. It's become part of the game, a bigger part of the game. All right. So hopefully, that video was just screwing things up. So that's what I'm hoping that this holds. All right. Injury update. Let's move to injury update. Injury update. What did I want to show with this? Let's quickly get through this. All right. So I wanted to show this site. This is the Sports Injury Central. All right. What do we got here? What do we got here? So what I want to show is Aaron Rodgers is rated as a 93. Aaron Rodgers, they got him here as a 93, which basically means he's the same as Joe Burrow, same as Deshaun Watson. He basically has the same injury risk as pretty much anybody else in terms of his recovery. So this is good news that he had. So we really shouldn't. Doesn't mean he won't get injured again. He could very well. And of course, he's older than all these guys. But, like he has a higher score than Anthony Richardson, for example. Now, the other thing is, so he should be fine as far as that goes. And what we've seen so far in camp confirms that. Well, what about Mike Williams? So what does this website have to say about old Mike Williams? This is things to say about Dr. Chow. So maybe he's not the greatest guy in the world, but this is the key sentence here. Pro Football Docs are optimistic that Williams will be ready to play when the Jets face the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football in Week 1. So his 6 score is a little lower because he's not fully recovered yet. But the idea is that the doctors here of this website, which a lot of people look at, the Pro Football Doc, they think they're optimistic that Mike Williams will be ready to play when the Jets face the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football in Week 1. So there you go. So I think that's good news for both Mike Williams and Aaron Rodgers. Let's close these out. Maybe that'll help. Maybe it won't. I don't know. All right, that's weird. All right, let's go to next news item. Next news item. How Spags attacks. Let's read about this. So this comes from the coaches of Offensive Line Clinic, which they send me some stuff sometimes. And it's called the Cool Clinic, the Coaches of Offensive Line Clinic. This year they had one of the people they had there was Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. And he had some interesting insights, I would say, into how he studies and prepares. Let's see. That is very weird. Okay, let's see if we can read this. So the first thing he does is study and attack protections. Study and attack protections. So Spagnuolo shared that the first thing he examines in an opponent is their pass protection schemes. Identifying weaknesses or patterns allows for strategic defensive planning. Then when you think about all of the problems we had in our offensive line last year. How do you think he was preparing to attack us? Then he says versatility in defensive plans. In today's games, offensive lines have numerous protection schemes. Spagnuolo emphasizes the need for defenses to be equally adaptable and prepared for various offensive strategies. And that's going to be how we're going to do basically the same thing with our defensive line. Olbrecht's going to have us doing that as well. And that's one of the advantages of having the defense in place and all the coaches in place for 4 years now. So we've had some good continuity. And then he says the third thing he does, the third insight here is that while studying tendencies is crucial, Spagnuolo cautions against overloading players with information. Providing key insights while allowing players to react instinctively ensures better performance on the field. Now, this is an interesting quote because Jeff Olbrecht has often said he tries to keep it simple. And you could say, well, shouldn't we not keep it simple? Because this game is a complex game. What are we keeping it simple for? Well, here's Spagnuolo saying he doesn't want to overload his players with information. And I think Olbrecht is kind of the same way. He doesn't want to overload the players with information. Now, if you think about it, think about like the broadcast of the games and what they say about Spagnuolo's defense. If you listen to them, they think he's doing like complex things, all of these exotic blitzes that he dials up and all this stuff. And he says, no. Actually, I try not to overload the players with information. So that just goes to show that how he teaches it is different than what they're telling you on the broadcast. May look complex, may look exotic, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's very simple. And so I think that's very interesting because I think Jeff Olbrecht comes from the same school, does the same things, and Coach Whitecotton and all of that. So I think we basically do the same thing, but now we have year 4 under those guys, and we kept all of our defensive coaches for the most part, Olbrecht and Whitecotton and Coach Rudy and everybody. So I think, we could probably get a little bit more complicated than we have been just because of the continuity and also some of our players, getting better like Jermaine Johnson and so forth. But in general, keep it simple. Very, very interesting from Coach Spagnuolo, one of the most improved defenses over the last few years. All right. Now, this is not going to work probably, but was going to show a video about nickel defenses. So let's take a look at this. Now, this is this up. All right. So this is interesting. It comes from Match Quarters. This is Coach Cody Alexander, highly recommended. Reason this is important is time. About 80% of the time. Here's your nickel defense. We got 4 down linemen here, 2 linebackers here. This nickel defender is extremely important. That's why we have to re-sign Michael Carter. We basically have to, because now remember, we're in this 80% of the time. This guy is basically used to be a linebacker back in the day, but now it's a nickel defender. And we're in it 80% of the time. So he's responsible for backside. This is going to be, this is the tight end here. The Buccaneers are in 11, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, 1 running back, 1 tight end. And they're going to run to the strong side. So this nickel defender has to read what's happening. There's going to be a gap here and come in and make the tackle as if they are a linebacker. And so it's very important to have a player who can do that. So this player on the Lions is Brian Branch. And on our team, it's Michael Carter. This player has to be very flexible because out of 11, when the offense comes in and they say, okay, we're going to do 11 personnel, that's a passing formation. That's passing personnel. But teams are running out of this. They're running out of 11 a lot of times now. So in other words, if this were a pass, you need the nickel defender to be a cornerback type, not a linebacker, because they're in 11 personnel. You got to cover 3 wide receivers. You can't expect a linebacker to cover a wide receiver. But teams now are running out of 11 personnels. So out of 11 personnel formations. In order to defend against that, you need a defender who can read the run play and make tackles. And Michael Carter can do a good job of that while having the ability to cover wide receivers and little fast wide receivers, receivers, whether they be running backs or, some tight ends are, like a Kyle Pitts. Is he really a tight end? Is he is kind of not. Or Mike Gesicki, right? These athletic tight ends, you need a guy who can cover them. So I was going to run this play, but I don't think StreamYard's going to let me run this without crashing. So I'm not going to run it. But essentially, just showing the importance of the nickel position in modern day football, understanding this is what we're in almost all the time. This looks like some sort of quarters-ish type coverage, which we run a lot. So, and I would recommend subscribing to Match Quarters on Substack. Great information with Coach A. All right, that takes care of that. All right, so with the problems we have been seeing on StreamYard, let's remove this. All right, let's just go to Q&A then. Maybe that's the best thing to do for today until we get some improvements to our situation equipment-wise. Go to the chat. See if you guys have any questions or things that you would want to discuss on this Sunday before StreamYard crashes once again. Yeah, Adrian Martinez. Yeah, he's like Strevler, but he has a better arm than Strevler, from what I've seen. From what I've seen, anyways. Will I be doing a roster chart? That's a good question. Probably not. We could just go to ourlads.com, Phil, and check it out. Maybe I'll do a roster review using ourlads.com. Our Lads is pretty good. Others may have a decent roster chart. But also, there's not really an intriguing, in previous years, Phil, there were some way more intriguing battles going on in terms of our roster. This year, it's like, who's cornerback 5 and 6? Like, we're not really going to be arguing about significant things on the roster this year. Our roster's pretty stacked, depending on what service you look at. You're gonna find out that the Jets have a 1, 2, 3, or 4 roster in the league, which means we're pretty stacked. Like, is Tack McKinley going to be able to make the cut? Maybe. So maybe we'll do a roster review at some point. I used to do an Excel spreadsheet. I think that's what you're referring to, Phil. And not sure if I need to do that. We could just go over the Our Lads website, assuming StreamYard can handle it. And maybe we'll do it that way, Phil. Infrared says, do you think Cromartie has his hands full with the cornerback room decision-making wise? I think Antonio Cromartie's learning. Don't forget, we have one of the best cornerback coaches in football. His name is Tony Oden, T.O., not Tony Adams. But too many Adamses. Tony Oden, Coach T.O., is our cornerbacks coach, and he's one of the best in the league. So I think Cromartie's learning infrared, if I had to guess. Antonio Cromartie's fairly new to coaching. And so I think he's taking this opportunity to learn. Now, he may have some information to impart to, say, Sauce Gardner simply because of the size, right? Because Cromartie back in his day was that prototypical large, lean, long corner, kind of like Sauce, although Sauce is more – no, I wouldn't say that. Cromartie was pretty athletic in terms of running, but his technique wasn't as smooth, I would say, as Sauce Gardner is. He was kind of jangly, but he could also return kicks, Cromartie. Remember that? He could return a kick for you now. He's pretty speedy, but Sauce doesn't do that. So Cromartie had, that's something to think about. Cromartie had better ball skills. I hadn't thought of that. Cromartie probably had better ball skills as far as Sauce Gardner's, because what's the one of the few things Sauce Gardner hasn't done yet in the league? He hasn't had that many interceptions. He's pretty much done everything else. But maybe Cromartie gives Sauce some pointers on how to improve his ball skills. Maybe you might see Sauce Gardner, for example, in practice catching punts, because that's hard to do, right? It's catching a punt is actually surprisingly difficult. Maybe Sauce Gardner practices that, not that he's going to return punts for us, but just to improve his ball skills. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And maybe he tells him, get on the jugs gun for 2 hours instead of 1 hour or something. I don't know. But I think that's probably an area where he could assist Sauce Gardner. And then just general, tips and tricks and knowledge and things like that. So we'll see. Yeah, Cromartie was good at getting those INTs because he had those ball skills, right, Harlan? Like if you return punts and kicks and things like that, sometimes maybe that's maybe that helps you, puts you in the mindset of the offense, right? Of going on offense. If you return kicks, now you're thinking like an offensive player, so to speak, right? So maybe that's what Sauce needs to do. Pretend like he's a punt returner and do a little practice on the punts, and maybe that'll get his ball skills improved a little bit. Phil says, thoughts on Salah? Seems a little more businesslike to me. Knows he can't be the weak link. Well, yeah, and maybe what I'm hoping with Salah is that we have a winning season, so there's no call for him to be fired. What we really want is obviously for the team to be successful, and then he can stay on for a long time, like Coach Tomlin, for example. But maybe what we're seeing actually, Phil, is the maturation of a coach. He made his way, in the league. He's been in the league about 20 years, but he's been on the defensive side of the ball. Pretty much that whole time, except a little bit in the beginning. But then when you become the head coach, you have to coach everybody. You have to coach the offense, you have to coach the defense, special teams. You have to care equally about all three phases. And so maybe he's just maturing in terms of him becoming a head coach, a coach of everybody. Instead of just worrying about the defense, now we got to worry about everything. And maybe what we're seeing is a guy who now is, maybe he's in the offensive meetings a little bit more. And in fact, Hackett and some of the other people said, yeah, he's sitting in some of our meetings, if you remember that. So maybe that's what he's doing. And maybe it's just the maturation of a coach, and that's what you want. I mean, don't forget, he was a first-time head coach with us. Some reason the Jets get all these first-time head coaches. A lot of our coaches over the past 20, 30 years have been first-timers. And, and so when you hire a first-timer, they got to learn. They're just like rookies. The rookies come in and they got to learn. Well, we had a rookie head coach. Think about it. Not a rookie coach, but a rookie as far as head coaching is concerned. So I'm hoping, Phil, that it's more of a maturation process. Now, I know Salah knows football. I'm not worried about that. I think he's a good football man, as they say. I'm not worried about that. But he's got to start winning. I mean, head coaches, good or bad, they get judged on their win-loss records, and that's just the way it is. So if he's going to stick around here, if we're going to keep this good football man around, he's got to start winning, and he's got the roster to do so. So, like a lot of people have said, there's no more excuses for Salah. And better in-game decisions. I mean, everybody always is difficult on the coach. I think having the better quarterback and offensive line will actually help there, Harlan, because the quarterback makes a lot of decisions. Infrared says Cromartie was more like a ball hawk. Yeah, he had those skills, right, Infrared? I now see Stiggers. Yeah, oh, yeah. So that's something else. Cromartie can coach up, Quantez Stiggers a bit. I can see, Cromartie developed Stiggers into a pretty darn good player. Yeah, let's hope so. Because I don't think, as much as I love DJ Reed, and I do really like DJ Reed, I don't think we're going to be able to afford him. So I think DJ Reed is going to be leaving for financial reasons. We can't keep everybody. We got to pay all these young guys. So I think the plan, hopefully, could be that Stiggers takes DJ Reed's spot next year. He's a backup this year, plays special teams. And then next year, hopefully, if all goes according to Hoyle, Stiggers steps in and replaces DJ Reed in the starting lineup. And that's one way to save some money, and hopefully he can be as good or maybe better. And that would be a way to save some money because we got to pay money to all these other people. Garrett and Sauce and Brees and Jermaine and ABT and all the people, they got to get paid. So somebody got to get the short end of the stick. I think it's going to be DJ Reed. We got to pay MC2, for example. We have to pay MC2. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Michael Carter II must get paid. Those nickel defenders are important, hard to find, and we got a good one. And they also, for whatever the reason, get paid less than the outside corners. And the outside, and that's interesting because some people would say the nickel position, the nickel cornerback position, is even harder to play than outside corner because receivers have more options about what they can do. And then also the nickel, like we were just showing, if they have 11 personnel on offense and they run out of it, the nickel now becomes like a linebacker. They have to kind of play like the old 4-3 linebacker. Weak side linebacker. So that position needs to do a lot more than ever before, but yet the salary has not caught up to that fact. So that's a guy that's going to be relatively cheap. And I think that's another reason to sign him because outside corners make way more money. So if you're going to make a decision between DJ Reed or Michael Carter, I think you go Michael Carter. John is here. He says, what up? Been looking forward to your detailed analysis. Hit him with Frankie Facts. Frankie Facts. So John remembers the old days with Green Bean where we used to do Frankie's Facts. We had a little segment and there was an accompanying audio with that. So that's what John is referring to. Sauce and Stiggers, without a doubt, would be an incredible name as a duo. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, everybody seems to love that kid too. He has a great backstory, obviously. And so, hopefully he can really develop. He's so far so good in camp. It's just camp, so who knows? But a lot of people are talking about, hey, this kid is really standing out in camp. There's something different about him. One thing to keep in mind with our beat reporters in training camp, when they say something looks different, I take that very seriously because, a guy like Connor Hughes or Semini or any of these guys who've been on the beat for a long time, every year they go and they look at it and they look at the players. And so they know what normal looks like, right? And if they're saying, wow, something looks different, then I take that seriously. Like this year, they're saying, wow, the offense looks different, very different with Aaron Rodgers. Although last year he was the quarterback in training camp, but and they're saying Stiggers looks a little different than a normal rookie. He's got something to him. So we'll see. I think it's very promising, but we got to see what happens. Phil says, Reed talking about stickers yesterday was classy. Reed is just a classy dude. I mean, think about DJ Reed, what he said, because our stupid writers tried to trap him into a terrible quote about trying to throw like Hassan Reddick under the bus. If you remember, they said, hey, DJ, Hassan Reddick's holding out. He's in the last year of his contract. You're in the last year of your contract. What do you think about that? That's a trap question. They were trying to trap him. And he just said, well, I signed a 3-year deal. And so I'm going to play out 3 years. That's it. He ended it right there. He didn't fall for the trap. Right. So DJ Reed, just a classy dude. He said, I signed a 3-year deal. So I'm going to play out the terms of the 3-year deal. That's, you got to like it. Instead of playing these games, some of these guys want to play. But he also didn't throw Reddick under the bus. He just said, well, for me, I'm financially comfortable. I'm okay with my situation. Everybody has to handle their situation differently. Didn't throw anybody under the bus, but he said, hey, I signed a 3-year deal. I play 3 years. That's the terms of the deal. Hey, this is a classy dude. I love DJ Reed, but unfortunately, we just probably can't afford him. Yeah, this is what you got to do, Infrared, right? Like as a general manager, you got to think about the future and have the pipeline. So Infrared, when I was on Green Bean Show, we used to talk about the pipeline all the time. We want a pipeline of players. We want a pipeline of coaches coming up. You got to keep those pipelines filled because you're not going to be able to keep anybody. And the obvious sort of analog to this is the Baltimore Ravens, right? When the Baltimore Ravens lose Matthew Judon, or they lose Patrick Queen, or they lose, whoever it may be, a Morgan Moses and a John Simpson, when they lose these players, do they skip a beat? No. I mean, Matthew Judon's a hell of a player to lose. CJ Mosley, they lost. I mean, for God's sakes. CJ Mosley, Matthew Judon, Patrick Queen, they lose these players, and they're great players. And they go on to their next teams and they play great for the next teams, but their team doesn't skip a beat. And that's exactly what you want because you can't keep everybody. You can't keep everybody. Nate says, I love seeing Stiggers go after every ball. Yeah, he's a little like a ball hawk, right, Nate? Phil Adams says, good to see the Frankie Army has increased to 34. Yeah, we're trying to build it back up. Obviously, we had to knock it down, but now we're building it back up, Phil. And Fred says, I hate our riders and B team. Well, Harrison Glazer's not really a beat writer. Who's Tim Park? It's Tim Park. Never heard of him. But I would say Harrison Glazer not really a beat writer. He's more of a YouTuber. I don't know if Harrison's still doing his YouTube channel, but I don't know. Would you consider Harrison Glazer a beat writer? I kind of consider him like a YouTuber, like a content creator. I don't know who Tim Park is, though. I never heard of him, so I'm gonna have to check him out. But yeah, the beat writers, I mean, Infrared, I talked about this in the video about Aaron Rodgers earlier this week. And it's really the media organizations that they work for. It's not really them per se. It's not really that person. It's the fact that they work for these organizations. These are large media organizations that are owned by large conglomerates, and then the conglomerate's owned by another conglomerate, and then the other conglomerate's owned by the megacorp conglomerate. And they all have agendas, and they have to do certain things to get clicks, to get reviews, because of their revenue model and all this. So it's not really them as people. It's just, this is who they work for. This is what their boss tells them to do. Like, do you really think Rich Cimini is a great anything? Like a great journalist, a great writer, a great content creator? Does anybody listen to the Rich Cimini podcast? Why would anybody listen to the Rich Cimini podcast? But Like, and does anybody really think Rich Cimini is a great writer or a great journalist, asks great questions? But so why is he still there? Right? He works for ESPN. Why is he still there? Well, it's because he stirs up the controversy because he does the things that we hate. That's exactly what his bosses want him to do. Right? So, like, if you think about it from his boss's perspective, he's a great employee. He does exactly what they want him to do, and he doesn't have any problems with it. He'll ask crappy questions. He'll stir up drama when there doesn't need to be any, because that's what they tell him to do in the production meeting. They come in the morning and they say, okay, how can we drum up some interest here? We need people to go to our website. We need people to read the columns. We need people to sign up for ESPN Plus. We need people to do, how are we going to do that? Cimini, how about you drum up some drama with Zach Wilson or, whoever it is that day, Hassan Reddick or whoever, that day. And then he goes, okay, you got it, boss, man. And he goes out there and he does it. And that's how he keeps his job. I mean, because you think about it, the guy he's not a great writer. He's not a great journalist. He's not breaking stories left and right. He doesn't have a good podcast. Why is he employed? Like by ESPN, a big company, who's part of Disney, actually. But that's why, because he's the guy who will go and do the things that his bosses want him to do and won't have any problems with it. That's how he keeps his job. He doesn't have any skill. Doesn't have any talent. He just does what he's told. And that's the thing. People get confused. They think the person at the end of the line is the one making decisions. They're not. Dick Chimney doesn't decide what to do. His bosses tell him what to do. That's what it is. Infrared says, I can't even listen to WFAN, to be honest. Yeah. Well, I used to listen. I probably, like a lot of you in the chat, I used to listen to WFAN growing up all the time. But that was when it first started, Mike and the Mad Dog. Remember that? and all of that. Steve Summers, the schmoozer. Right. But I don't know who's on there now. Who is it? Evan Roberts and Tiki Barber or something? I don't know. But there's so many different options now. Back then, we didn't have any options, Infrared, remember? Where were you going to go? There was no internet the way there is today, right? There was no YouTube. We couldn't go to YouTube. We couldn't do anything. We just had a radio and 3 channels on a television. We couldn't do anything. We had to listen to the damn radio. That's all that was on there. There wasn't even competition. Remember in the beginning of WFAN, there wasn't even another sports station in New York, right? Until ESPN put one out, I think, right? The ESPN one that Michael, what's his name, works for. Don LaGreca and Michael K, right? Before that, there wasn't even a competition for WFAN. It was just, that's all we had. Do you guys remember this? There used to be a service that you could call to get the latest sports information. I don't know if you guys remember this. I remember being in high school and using a payphone and putting quarters in a payphone to call this number, and they would give you the latest sports information. And I remember like calling in the wintertime to find out like if the Yankees signed any free agents. Like imagine calling up and seeing what the latest information is on a telephone. Like it's ridiculous. The Yankees signed Ed Whitson to a 3-year contract. That's what we had to do back in the day. We didn't have information, or you had to wait till the newspaper came out in the morning. But if you didn't want to wait, you wanted up to the minute information, you had to call this number. It was craziness. Phil Adams says, Dick Chimney is like piles. Once you get some, you can't get rid of the pain in the ass. Yeah. Well, he just sticks around because he's willing to do what he does. The point of a system, the purpose of a system is what it does. That's a good quote. The good old days, WFN was better before. Now it's cosmic slop. Huh. Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're probably I mean, I don't know. I wonder if they lose market share because of all this YouTube and internet stuff. Yeah, I wonder if their ratings have gone down. I don't know. Arlen says YouTube is the new radio and TV. It used to have only 5 channels. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, the quarters and the right infrared. I mean, that's how it used to be. That's how it used to be. All right, I'm out of coffee, so let me know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap this one up, and we'll have to take a look at improving our equipment so we can do more fun stuff rather than just looking at my ugly mug. There's a lot of stuff we could do if only my computer could do it. I think it's really my computer is the problem. Seems like. But otherwise, we'll wrap it up here. Sundays at 10, Coffee with Frankie. There's also some podcast type stuff. If you like podcasts, putting it out on audio, if that's your preference. Phil Adams says, are you guesting anytime soon? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good. Thanks for reminding me, Phil. Looks like I'll be going on the Nick Shine program, a proud New York Jets fan, on next Wednesday. And if anybody's listening and you want me to be a guest, happy to do so. Hit me up on X. Flatbush Frankie on X. Hit me up. And so this Wednesday at 9, I think at 9 o'clock, proud New York Jets fan Nick Shine. I'll be going on his show. And if anybody wants me to go on their show, hit me up on X and I'll be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks for reminding me, Phil. I forgot about that. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. And hopefully Hassan Reddick will be back in the fold. See you guys next week.